The sky above Chicago burned orange and red as Cole held his daughter in his arms. She was only 6 years old, and she did not understand why the world was falling apart around them. He had promised her that morning that they would go to the park after lunch. Now there was no park. There was no lunch. There was only fire and death raining down from the stars. The ships had appeared without warning 3 hours ago. No message, no demands, no declaration of war. They simply opened fire on every major city on Earth, watched as buildings collapsed like toys. He heard millions of screams fade into silence. His wife had been at work downtown. He knew she was gone the moment he saw the first beam of light strike the city center. His daughter stopped breathing in his arms before the rescue teams could reach them. The dust and smoke had filled her small lungs. Survived. He wished he had not. That was 6 months ago. The world had changed since then. Humanity had changed. Ambassador Price stood in the center of the Galactic Council chamber. The room was massive, filled with representatives from over 200 species. Some floated in liquid tanks. Others perched on strange platforms designed for their alien bodies. All of them looked at with expressions that ranged from boredom to disgust. Was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 30 years as a diplomat. He had believed in peaceful solutions his entire life. But standing here now, holding images of dead children and burning cities, he felt something cold growing in his chest. 3 billion people, said. His voice was steady, but his hands shook slightly. The killed 3 billion human beings without any reason, without any warning. We are here to demand justice. High Arbiter Hora, the leader of the council, made a sound that's translator interpreted as a sigh. Hora was a tall creature with pale blue skin and 4 arms. His eyes showed no emotion as he looked down at the human ambassador. The Empire has provided their explanation, Hora said. Your species was expanding too quickly. They saw you as a potential threat to regional stability. Their actions, while unfortunate, fall within acceptable parameters for a superior civilization dealing with a minor species. Felt the cold thing in his chest grow larger. Acceptable parameters? They murdered children. They destroyed hospitals. They gave us no chance to surrender or negotiate. A sound rippled through the chamber. It took a moment to realize it was laughter. Dozens of alien species were laughing at him, at humanity, at 3 billion dead. Counselor, the representative, rose from his seat. He was a massive creature covered in dark scales, with eyes like black mirrors. His mouth twisted into what might have been a smile. Your species has existed for barely a moment in galactic time, said. You have no significant technology, no military worth mentioning, no allies. The Council has already made their decision. Earth is a minor world populated by a minor species. What happened to you is simply the natural order of things. The strong do as they wish. The weak suffer what they must. Looked around the chamber. He saw no sympathy, no support. Even Counselor L, from a species known for their compassion, looked away when he met her eyes. So that is your final judgment? Asked. High Arbiter Hora nodded. The matter is closed. They acted within their rights. Earth may submit a formal complaint to be reviewed in approximately 40 standard years. Until then, we suggest your species focus on rebuilding what remains of your world. Stood in silence for a long moment, then he nodded slowly. I understand, he said. I will bring your decision back to Earth. The chamber had already moved on to other business before left. No one watched him go. He was, after all, just a representative of a minor species, barely worth noticing. The journey back to Earth took 2 weeks. Spent most of that time staring out the window of his small ship at the stars. He had always loved the stars. As a child, he had dreamed of humanity joining the galactic community, of friendship between species, of shared knowledge and cooperation. Those dreams were dead now, burned to ash along with 3 billion people. When his ship entered Earth's atmosphere, expected to see a broken world. He expected refugees and ruins. He expected despair. What he found instead surprised him. The cities were being rebuilt, but not as they were before. New structures rose from the ashes, strange and angular. Factories operated day and night. People moved with purpose. There was grief in their eyes, yes, but there was something else too, something harder, something colder. Admiral Daniel Carter met at the landing pad. Daniel was a stocky man in his 50s with a shaved head and a scar running down his left cheek. He had commanded Earth's small defense fleet during the attack. All 12 of his ships had been destroyed in the first 5 minutes. "How did it go?" Daniel asked. Shook his head. "They laughed at us, called us a minor species, said they were within their rights." Daniel nodded as if he had expected this answer. "Good." Frowned. "Good? How is any of this good?" Daniel put a hand on his shoulder and guided him toward a waiting vehicle. "Because now we know where we stand. No allies, no help, no justice from the galaxy. We are alone." "That seems like the opposite of good." Daniel smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "It means we do not have to hold back. It means we do not have to play by their rules. It means when we are ready, no one will expect what comes next." The vehicle took them underground, through tunnels had never seen before. They descended for nearly 30 minutes before arriving at a massive facility hidden deep beneath the Earth's surface. Stepped out and stared in disbelief at what he saw. Hundreds of ships filled the cavern, ships unlike anything humanity had ever built. They were sleek and dark, covered in technology that seemed almost alive. Thousands of workers and engineers moved between them, building and testing and preparing. "What is this?" whispered. "This is Project Prometheus," Daniel said. "This is humanity's answer to the Galactic Council. This is how we will teach them that they made a terrible mistake." Looked at the fleet that should not exist. He thought of the council members who had laughed at him. He thought of and his cruel smile. And for the first time in 6 months, smiled too. 3 years passed. The galaxy forgot about Earth. They celebrated their easy victory and moved on to threaten other weak species. The Galactic Council continued its business as usual. No one thought about the small blue planet on the edge of known space. This was exactly what humanity wanted. Deep beneath the surface of Earth's moon, Doctor worked on something that would change everything. Was a small woman with short brown hair and glasses that always seemed to slide down her nose. Before the attack, she had been a physics professor at a small university. Now she led a team of 3,000 scientists in the largest secret project in human history. "Run the simulation again," said to her assistant. The holographic display lit up, showing a warship. A beam of energy struck the ship and every system on board went dark. The ship did not explode. It simply stopped working, completely, permanently. Allowed herself a small smile. "It works." She had spent 3 years studying the wreckage of weapons. She had learned their technology inside and out. Then she had improved it. They used brute force. They overwhelmed their enemies with firepower, had designed something more elegant. Her weapon targeted the specific frequencies that powered systems. One pulse could disable an entire fleet without killing anyone. Of course, humanity had also built weapons that could kill, many of them, but believed in giving enemies a choice. They would have the chance to surrender. Whether they took that chance was up to them. On the other side of the lunar facility, Captain Lisa Monroe ran another training simulation. Her pilots flew through virtual defenses, their movements sharp and coordinated. Lisa watched the data streams with sharp eyes. She was a tall woman with dark skin and a reputation for being impossible to satisfy. Her pilots feared her almost as much as they respected her. "Formation 7, Lisa commanded. "Hit them from below." The simulated human ships dove beneath the formation and struck at their weak points. In the actual attack 3 years ago, they had destroyed Earth's fleet in minutes because they had better shields and faster weapons. But Lisa had studied every second of that battle. She knew exactly where the ships were vulnerable. She knew their response times, their tactical patterns, their blind spots. When the time came, her pilots would not make the same mistakes twice. Admiral Daniel Carter walked through the facility, inspecting the ships that would carry humanity's response to the stars. Each vessel was a masterpiece of engineering, faster than anything they had, better shielded, better armed, 3 years of focused work by every scientist and engineer on Earth. He stopped in front of the flagship, a massive ship named Resolution. It would carry him into battle when the time came. He hoped he would be worthy of the responsibility. A message arrived on his personal device. The sender was unknown, but the encryption was familiar. Daniel read it twice, then went to find Price. Was in his office, reviewing intelligence reports. 3 years as a secret spymaster had changed him. The idealistic diplomat was gone. In his place was a man who understood that sometimes peace required the willingness to wage war. "We have a visitor," Daniel said. They met her in a secure room deep underground. Counselor L looked nervous as she materialized from the teleportation beam. Her species had feathers instead of hair and large golden eyes that showed every emotion. Right now, those eyes showed fear. "You should not have come here," said. "If the Council learns you visited Earth, they will execute you for treason." El nodded. "I know, but I had to warn you. They are planning another attack. They want to finish what they started. They plan to destroy Earth completely this time. No survivors." Daniel and exchanged a look. When Daniel asked, 6 months, maybe less. They are gathering their fleet now. Leaned forward. "Why warn us? Your council made it clear that Earth does not matter." El's feathers ruffled with shame. "I voted against the ruling. I was the only one. What they did was wrong. What the council did was worse. I could not stop them then. But perhaps I can help you now." She handed a data chip. "This contains everything: fleet positions, communication codes, the locations of their military bases. I have been collecting this information for 3 years, hoping I could make things right." "Took the chip. You know what we are planning to do." "I suspect, and I think you should do it." Elle stood, her fear replaced by determination. "The galaxy needs to learn that it cannot treat other species this way. Someone needs to teach that lesson. I believe humans are the ones to do it." After she left, Daniel plugged the data chip into the strategic planning system. The information was better than anything they had gathered on their own. With this, they could plan their attack perfectly. "We move up the timeline," Daniel said. "We launch in 3 months." Nodded. "I will prepare my speech for the council. When this is over, they will hear every word." In another part of the facility, Cole checked his weapon for the 100th time. He led the ground assault teams now. 200 soldiers trained to capture targets rather than destroy them. When the fleet disabled the ships and his teams would board them. They would take prisoners. They would gather evidence. And they would find Commander, the one who had ordered the attack on Earth, thought about his daughter every day. He thought about his wife. The pain had not faded, but it had changed. It was no longer wild and hot. It was cold and focused. He did not want revenge. He wanted justice. There was a difference. 3 months later, on a quiet night, humanity launched its fleet. 300 ships rose from hidden bases around the world and on the moon. They formed up in perfect formation and activated their new faster-than-light drives. The technology was based on designs, but improved beyond anything the galaxy had seen. The ships vanished into the darkness between stars, leaving no trace, no signal, no warning. They had given Earth no warning before their attack. Humanity would return the favor. Lisa Monroe sat in her command chair on the Resolution, running final checks on her tactical systems. Around her, the crew worked in focused silence. They all knew what was at stake. They all carried the weight of 3 billion dead. Admiral Daniel Carter stood on the bridge, watching the stars blur past the... In a few hours, they would arrive at space. In a few hours, the galaxy would learn what happened when you underestimated humanity. He thought about Hora calling them a minor species. He thought about saying the weak suffer what they must. "Not anymore," Daniel said quietly. "Never again," was called Prime. It was a dark planet covered in massive cities and military installations. 500 warships orbited it at all times. They believed their home was impossible to attack. No enemy had ever come close to threatening them. Then the human fleet arrived. The ships appeared out of faster-than-light travel without any warning. 300 human vessels materialized directly in home space, closer than any fleet should have been able to approach without detection. Alarms screamed across the planet. Soldiers rushed to battle stations. Commanders shouted orders. Emperor S received the news in his throne room. He was ancient even by standards, his scales faded to gray, his eyes still sharp with intelligence. When his advisors told him that Earth had sent a fleet, he actually laughed. "Earth, the minor species we broke 3 years ago. How many ships?" 300, my Emperor." S waved a clawed hand. "We have 500 ships in orbit alone. Destroy them and be done with it." He returned to his other business, confident that this small annoyance would be handled in minutes. On the bridge of the Resolution, Admiral Daniel Carter watched the fleet move to engage. 500 ships against 300. The numbers favored the enemy, but numbers were not everything. "All ships execute Pattern Alpha," Daniel commanded. "Doctor, are we ready?" His voice came through the communication system. She was aboard a support ship near the rear of the formation. "The pulse generators are charged and ready. On your command, Admiral." The fleet closed the distance, their weapons charging. They expected the humans to flee or attempt to negotiate. Instead, the human ship spread into a wide formation that seemed to make no tactical sense. Commander led the response from his flagship. He remembered the human ambassador he had mocked 3 years ago. He remembered the laughter in the council chamber. He looked forward to destroying these foolish creatures and ending their species once and for all. All ships open fire, commanded. 500 ships unleashed their weapons at the same moment. Beams of energy and explosive projectiles filled the space between the fleets. It should have been a massacre. The human ships did not explode. Their shields held against weapons that should have torn them apart instantly. They watched in confusion as their most powerful attacks did nothing. "Impossible," whispered. "Now, Doctor," Daniel said calmly. Across the human fleet, specialized emitters activated. They released a pulse of energy that spread outward in a massive wave. The pulse passed through shields. It passed through armor. It reached the core systems of every ship. And every ship went dark. 500 warships lost all power at the same moment. Weapons went offline. Engines stopped. Life support switched to emergency backups. The greatest military force in the quadrant became 500 helpless metal boxes floating in space. The pulse had not killed anyone. It had simply turned off their machines. On Prime, Emperor S received updates with growing horror. His fleet was disabled. His orbital defenses were dead. The human ships were moving through his territory without resistance. "How is this possible?" he demanded. They were a primitive species, they had nothing. His advisors had no answers. Captain Lisa Monroe coordinated the fleet as they secured space. Human ships moved to disable ground installations and capture military bases. They did not bomb cities. They did not kill civilians. They simply took control piece by piece. "Target the command ships first," Lisa ordered. "We want their leadership alive." Cole and his ground teams launched from their transport ships. They wore advanced armor that they had never seen. They carried weapons designed to stun rather than kill. Their mission was capture, not slaughter. His team breached flagship through an emergency airlock. The soldiers inside tried to fight with hand weapons since their powered equipment no longer worked. They were no match for trained human soldiers with functioning technology. Moved through the dark corridors, following his tracker toward the bridge. He thought about his daughter with every step. He thought about the moment she had stopped breathing in his arms. The anger was still there, but he kept it controlled. He was here for justice, not murder. They found on the bridge, surrounded by his command staff. The commander stood tall despite his situation. His black eyes showed no fear. "You think this changes anything?" said. "Even if you destroy us, the galaxy will hunt your species to extinction. You have made enemies of everyone." Walked up to him and looked into those cold eyes. He thought about pulling the trigger. It would be so easy. No one would blame him. This creature had killed billions. He deserved to die. Instead, lowered his weapon. "You are under arrest for war crimes against the people of Earth," said. "You will stand trial. You will face justice. Real justice, not the kind your council practices." Seemed confused by this. He had expected death. He had expected revenge. This calm, measured response disturbed him more than any threat could have. Within 72 hours, the human fleet had neutralized the entire military. Every warship was disabled. Every base was captured. Every weapon installation was under human control. The Empire, one of the most feared powers in the galaxy, had been defeated without a single city being destroyed. Emperor S sent desperate messages to the Galactic Council, begging for help. He described the human technology that had defeated his forces. He warned that if Earth could do this to they could do it to anyone. On the resolution, Admiral Daniel Carter received word that the operation was complete. 3 billion humans had died in the attack. 0 civilians had died in humanity's response. "Send a message to the Galactic Council," Daniel said. "Tell them Ambassador Price will be addressing them in 3 days. Tell them attendance is not optional." Lisa Monroe looked at the tactical display showing human ships spread across space. "They will be terrified." "Good," Daniel replied. "Fear might teach them what decency could not." The message went out to every species in the galaxy. Earth had risen, the had fallen, and humanity was coming to the Council to deliver a message no one would ever forget. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. 200 species sat in their designated seats, but none of them spoke. None of them moved. They all stared at that showed the space outside the station. 50 human warships floated there in perfect formation. They had arrived 3 hours ago. They had made no threats. They had not needed to. High Arbiter Hora sat in his elevated chair, his 4 arms gripping the armrests. His pale blue skin had turned almost white with fear. 3 years ago, he had dismissed the human ambassador as a representative of a minor species. Now that same species had conquered the Empire in 3 days and brought a fleet to his doorstep. The doors to the chamber opened. Ambassador Price walked in alone. He wore a simple black suit. His gray hair was neatly combed. His eyes were calm and steady. He carried no weapons, no guards, no display of power. He did not need any. Every alien in the room watched him walk to the central platform. The same platform where they had laughed at him 3 years ago, remembered that laughter. He had thought about it every day since. He did not speak immediately. He stood in silence, letting them wait, letting them feel what it was like to be powerless and ignored. 3 years ago, I stood in this chamber and begged for justice, finally said. His voice was quiet, but the acoustics of the room carried every word. 3 billion of my people had been murdered without warning or reason. I showed you images of dead children. I showed you burning cities. I asked only that you hold the accountable for their crimes. He paused, looking around the chamber. Council members who had been so confident before now could not meet his eyes. You laughed at me. High Arbiter Hora told me that Earth was a minor world populated by a minor species. Commander told me that the strong do as they wish and the weak suffer what they must. Your council ruled that they had acted within their rights. Took a step forward. I want you to understand something. We remembered those words. Every human on Earth remembered them. When we rebuilt our cities, we remembered. When we buried our dead, we remembered. When we built the ships that now orbit this station, we remembered. High Arbiter Hora found his voice. Ambassador Price, the Council is willing to discuss reparations and revised relations with Earth. There is no need for threats. Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. I have not threatened anyone, High Arbiter. I am simply here to speak. You are going to listen this time. He raised a small device and activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the center of the chamber. Images of the attack on Earth. Children running through burning streets. Hospitals collapsing. Families dying in each other's arms. This is what the did to us. This is what your council approved as acceptable. I want you to see it. I want you to understand what you endorsed. Several council members looked away. Some made sounds of distress, but they watched. They had no choice. Now let me show you what we did in return. New images appeared, ships floating dead in space, their crews alive and unharmed, military bases captured without destruction, soldiers arrested instead of killed, cities untouched, civilians going about their lives under human protection. We defeated the entire military in 72 hours. We captured every ship, every base, every installation. And we did not kill a single civilian. We did not bomb a single city. We did not commit the crimes they committed against us. The chamber was absolutely silent. You called us a minor species. You said we had no significant technology. You believed we would simply accept our place and suffer quietly. His voice grew harder. You were wrong. We are not a minor species. We never were. We were simply peaceful. We wanted to join your community as friends. You taught us that friendship was not possible, so we became something else. He turned to look directly at High Arbiter Hora. The believed the strong do as they wish. They were right in a way. We are strong now, stronger than them, stronger than any of you. We could do as we wish. We could burn your worlds as they burned ours. We could conquer your empires and enslave your peoples. Hora's voice trembled. What do you want? Justice, said simply. Not revenge, not conquest, justice. He outlined humanity's terms. Commander and other leaders would stand trial for war crimes. The Empire would pay reparations to Earth for the damage they caused. A new court would be established to handle future conflicts fairly. And the Galactic Council would officially recognize Earth as an equal member of the galactic community. That is all, Hora asked, clearly expecting worse. That is all. We do not want your worlds. We do not want your resources. We do not want to rule over anyone. We only want what we should have received 3 years ago. Acknowledgement that what happened to us was wrong, and a system to make sure it never happens to anyone else. Counselor L stood from her seat. Her golden eyes were wet with tears. I voted against the original ruling. I was the only one. I was ashamed of this council then, and I am ashamed now. She turned to face the other members. Humanity could have done to us what we allowed them to do to them. They chose not to. Does anyone here not understand what that means? The chamber remained silent. Admiral Daniel Carter's voice came through the communication system. He had been listening from the resolution. High Arbiter, I want you to understand something clearly. We are not monsters. We do not enjoy war. We built this fleet because we had no other choice. You gave us no other choice. But now that we have power, we choose to use it responsibly. We choose to be better than those who hurt us. Nodded, we are offering you peace. Real peace built on fairness and respect. You can accept it and we will become partners. Or you can reject it and we will leave your council to its own path. But know this, if anyone ever attacks Earth again, if anyone ever threatens our people, we will respond. And next time we might not be so merciful. High Arbiter Hora looked at the human ambassador. He looked at the ships outside. He thought about the Empire lying defeated and helpless. He thought about what humanity could do if they truly wanted revenge. The Council accepts your terms, he said quietly. Price nodded. Good, then let us begin building something better. As he walked out of the chamber, thought about the 3 billion people who had died. He thought about the families destroyed, the futures stolen. This would not bring them back. Nothing could bring them back. But maybe, just maybe, their deaths would mean something. Maybe the galaxy would learn. Maybe no one else would have to suffer what Earth had suffered. It was not enough. It would never be enough. But it was a start. 1 year had passed since humanity brought the galaxy to its knees and then offered it a hand instead of a fist. The universe was slowly learning to understand this strange species from the small blue planet. Commander stood in the center of the court on a neutral station. His dark scales had lost their shine during his year in custody. His black eyes, once so arrogant, now held something that might have been regret. Judges from 12 different species sat before him. Humans had insisted that no single species control the court. Justice had to be fair to be real. Cole sat in the gallery watching the trial. He had earlier that week describing what he had witnessed during the attack on Earth. He had spoken about his wife. He had spoken about his daughter. His voice had remained steady throughout, but tears had fallen down his face. The head judge, an ancient creature from a species known for their wisdom, read the verdict. Commander, this court finds you guilty of crimes against sentient life. You ordered an unprovoked attack on a peaceful world. You killed billions without warning or mercy. You showed no remorse and called your actions the natural order of things. Stood straight, accepting the judgment. You are sentenced to life imprisonment on a rehabilitation station. You will spend your remaining years learning about the species you tried to destroy. You will watch recordings of human art, music, literature, and history. You will understand what you attempted to erase from the universe. Had expected to feel satisfaction. He had expected to feel that justice had finally been served. Instead, he felt tired. His family was still gone. No verdict could change that. But as he watched being led away, he realized something had changed. The universe had acknowledged that what happened to Earth was wrong. It was not enough. It would never be enough, but it was something. On Prime, the Empire paid its reparations, not through conquest or slavery, but through fair agreements. They provided resources to help rebuild Earth's destroyed cities. They shared technology that could help humanity grow. It was not forgiveness. It was accountability. Emperor S had stepped down from his throne. He had been replaced by a younger leader who understood that the old ways had nearly destroyed their civilization. The new emperor worked with human advisors to reform society. Change was slow, but it was happening. Doctor stood before a gathering of scientists from 30 different species. She held a small device in her hands, similar to the one that had disabled the fleet. This technology can end wars before they begin, explained. It can disable weapons without killing soldiers. It can protect civilians on both sides of any conflict. We could have kept it secret. We could have used it to dominate the galaxy. Instead, we are sharing it freely with any species that commits to the new peace accords. The alien scientists watched with amazement and confusion. They did not understand why humanity would give away their greatest advantage, smiled at their confusion. We did not build this weapon to conquer anyone. We built it to survive. Now that we have survived, we want to help others survive too. That is who we are. That is who we have always been. Captain Lisa Monroe commanded the first joint human-alien patrol fleet. Her crew included members of 15 different species. They worked together smoothly after months of training and building trust. Lisa had been skeptical at first. She had not forgotten the Council's betrayal. But working with these aliens, she had come to understand that most of them were not so different from humans. They had families. They had hopes. They had been afraid and had made poor choices from that fear. "Captain, we are receiving a distress signal," her communications officer reported. The officer was a young who had chosen to serve alongside humans as a gesture of reconciliation. Lisa checked the coordinates. A small trading vessel had suffered engine failure near an asteroid field. The crew was running out of air. "Set course," Lisa ordered. "Maximum speed." The fleet arrived in time. They rescued the traders, a species that had never met humans before. The captain of the trading vessel looked at Lisa with wonder. "You came all this way to save us. You did not even know us." Lisa shrugged. "You needed help. We were nearby. It is not complicated." The trader shook his head. "I heard stories about humans, terrible stories about what you did to the I expected monsters. You are not what I expected." "We are not monsters," Lisa said. "We never wanted to be warriors, but when we had to fight, we fought. Now that the fighting is over, we would rather help." On Earth, the rebuilding continued. New cities rose where old ones had fallen. Memorials stood in every town, honoring the 3 billion who had died. The pain had not disappeared, but hope had begun to grow alongside it. Admiral Daniel Carter had retired from active service. He spent his days training the next generation of leaders. He taught them about strategy and tactics, but he also taught them about restraint and mercy. "Power is easy to use," he told his students. "Any fool can destroy. The real challenge is knowing when not to use your power. The real strength is building instead of burning." Ambassador Price stood before the Galactic Council once again, but this time he stood as an equal. Earth had a permanent seat on the Council now. Their voice mattered. Their vote counted. "1 year ago I came here with demands," said. "Today I come with an invitation. Earth is hosting the first Galactic Unity Summit. We will discuss trade, culture, science, and cooperation. We will find ways to work together instead of against each other. Every species is welcome." High Arbiter Hora listened with a complex expression. Fear and respect, and something that might have been shame. After the session, Hora approached privately. "I must confess something," Hora said quietly. "When you first came to us, I truly believed humans were a minor species. I believed the galaxy had no room for compassion. I believed only strength mattered." "Waited. You proved me wrong, not by conquering us, not by making us fear you, though we do fear you. You proved me wrong by showing us a different way. You had every reason to become tyrants. You became teachers instead." Hora paused. "I do not understand humans. I do not think I ever will, but I am grateful that you are who you are." Thought about his response carefully. "We are not better than other species, High Arbiter. We have the same capacity for cruelty and hatred. The attack on Earth could have turned us into monsters. Many of us wanted revenge. Many of us still struggle with anger." "Then why did you choose mercy?" "Because we decided that our children deserved a better galaxy than the one that hurt us. Because we refused to become the thing we hated. Because revenge would not bring back the dead, but building something new might give their deaths meaning." That evening walked through a park near the Council station. Human children played alongside alien children. They chased each other and laughed and shared toys. They did not see species or politics. They only saw friends. This was what humanity had fought for. Not conquest, not power, just this. A chance for children to play in peace under strange and distant stars. Thought about his own back on Earth. They would grow up in a galaxy that respected them. They would never know the fear and despair that their grandparents had known. They would have opportunities beyond anything previous generations could have imagined. He looked up at the stars and smiled. "We made it," he whispered to the 3 billion who had not survived. "We honored you. We built something worth building. Rest now. We will take it from here." And across the galaxy, from Earth to the far edges of known space, a new era began. An era built not on fear, but on hope. Not on conquest, but on cooperation. Not on revenge, but on the simple idea that every species, no matter how small, deserved a chance to shine. Humanity had shown the universe what they were capable of when pushed to war. Now they would show them something even more remarkable. What they could build in peace.